Hello friends, welcome to KGS IAS English YouTube channel and I am Shubham Sharma, your economy faculty. Friends, today we will discuss the chapter number 4 of economics survey. In case you had missed that chapter number 1, chapter number 2 and chapter number 3, do watch that after this particular chapter. Now the chapter number 4 is external sector playing the long game. If we'll discuss this chapter number 4, it talk about the India's relation with outside world, as well as it also talk about what is going in the current world economies and how the impact of world over risk, vulnerability, wars impacting the whole economic trade. We will discuss in this particular chapter. We will also discuss what is the current account, capital account, balance of payment scenarios, export, import of goods and services, sector-wise growth of India regarding to export. This is very important chapter when it comes to prelims as well as mains. Now, when we talk about chapter number 1, we'll discuss the overview of the economic system going in India as well as in outside world. When we talk about chapter number 2, it talk about the fiscal policy measures regarding the revenue and expenditure taxes. When we talk about chapter 3, it talk about the monetary policy system. Now this chapter number 4 is all those things that is dwelling outside India. So again, let's start this chapter number 4, why the world is no longer open. Let's discuss first of all what is the meaning of open economy and closed economy. Open economy means that economy where the export and imports are going place, where the movement of people is there, when the world is focusing more on multilateralism and where the international institutions play a very big role in developing the economic system as well as facilitating the global trade. Now the reason is why the world is no longer open. If I'll take you 25 years or 30 years back, or we can say pre 2010, if I'll speak in general. So pre 2010 world is focusing a lot on multilateralism. Countries are trying to establish relationship, they are trying to form the organizations, groups, and all of them are trying to promote trade. But now if we talk about the present world, it is very much unstable, exposed to vulnerability, and countries are focusing more on the geopolitics, national security, and they try to build the relation with only those countries on which they trust and which will give them long-term benefits. So earlier world economy was based on lowest cost of production. At that time economies of scale matter a lot. So lowest cost of production, free movement of goods, global supply chain, and WTO led multilateralism. So if we talk about the scenario that is pre 2010, the countries are focusing on that the overall cost of production should lower down, there must be free movement of goods, they should integrate themselves in global supply chain, and WTO is a very strong body at that time, even it is today also, but that time the presence of WTO is felt by every nation. And WTO always believed to have more of multilateralism. Now if we talk about today's world, today's world is driven by geopolitics. Geopolitics play a very important role in the present context. Then national security, strategic industries, those industries which will create a niche for your exported products and that will give you a dominance as well. Then technology control, the more you control the technology, the more the world is dependent on you, and this is not a temporary shock but a structural shift. So guys, remember this thing, whatever the present world is going on, especially if we talk about after 2010 and more specifically after COVID, the world is focusing more on unilateralism and they are trying to focus more on structural shift. Moving ahead, trade policy uncertainty, this is very important in context of mains exam. Trade policy uncertainty refers to uncertainty caused by sudden tariff hike. How the sudden tariff hikes, especially after the Donald Trump became the president of US, he focuses more on reciprocal tariff. And when one country increase the tariff to protect their domestic industries, as a result, the other countries also impose the same tariff. As a result of that, the cost push inflation enhances, which will impact the overall world market and the price of goods and services increases. So sudden tariff hikes. Then export ban. If you are banning the export, then in that case, suppose X country is banning the export to Y country, then in return Y country also do the same. As a result of that, the diversification of the products, the choices of the consumer, as well as the overall prices will increase, and the consumer choices fall, diversification fall, prices escalate. Then sanctions, country-wide sanctions is imposed that if that country is purchasing the goods from X country, then in that case we will impose sanctions on them. If you are doing trade with that country, then you will start facing the sanctions from us. So these sanctions game is also playing an important role. Then technology restrictions. Technology is given only to those which are very close or to those countries which is having a good trade relations, and changing the trade rules. So this is what trade policy uncertainty is. So why uncertainty is worse than tariff? We usually talk about this thing that the tariff is more dangerous, but right now friends, uncertainty is more dangerous than tariff. The reason is, when it's not about the business only, it's about in the general human life as well. When you live in an uncertain environment, you always have a stress. So currently the uncertainty policy that is going on in the whole world is also the testing the patience of the people, as well as testing the patience of investors. They're trying to delay the investment because they feel that if we will not delay the investment, and if we put our money into any of the particular asset, might be the returns will become negative and we will face a big loss. Then they postpone export expansion and avoiding long-term contract because they don't know what will be the result in the future course of action. So this uncertainty is more dangerous in comparison to tariff. Then there is a particular word that might be asked in prelims exam. What is trade elasticity? What is the meaning of trade elasticity? Trade elasticity measure how responsive trade is to change in income or prices. That simply means how the trade is responding with change in income or prices. That means global trade uncertainty is global trade elasticity is declining, means trade is growing slower than global GDP. So if global GDP is increasing, but if the trade is growing slow down, then we can say that the elasticity is actually declining. This reflects fragmentation. Fragmentation means trade is scattered between the different groups or small groups or countries. Then protectionism, countries trying to protect their domestic industries by imposing high tariffs and duties. And lastly, supply chain restructuring, where earlier the countries feel that we need to be the part of global supply chain. In the present world, the countries are trying to focus on that. If we are more opening our economy, if we are more becoming the part of global supply chain, we are exposing our economy to vulnerability. So this is what trade elasticity talk about. So simply means trade elasticity is declining. That means the response of trade in context of change in income or prices is actually differentiating. Then why this uncertainty is rising? What is the meaning? As I mentioned, that trade policy uncertainty, and everyone is talking about why this uncertainty keep on increasing. What is the reason behind the increase in uncertainty? This uncertainty is because of two factors. One is economic factor and another is a non-economic factor. So if we talk about economic factor, the trade imbalances. Countries are in fear that the more the trade imbalances, the more is the current account deficit, the more is balance of trade becoming negative, the more they feel the pressure. Then industrial policies, the different industrial policies, and competition for resources, because resources are limited and the countries are trying to snatch as much as resources for their own survival. Non-economic factors are more critical right now. So non-economic factors include geopolitical tensions and national security concerns. Countrywide, all over the world are facing this scenario that the geopolitical tension keep on increasing. National security is a major concern. Recent war-like scenario also talk about the same thing. Geopolitical tensions keep on mounting and national security also created the problem. So countries are increasingly using trade policies to achieve domestic objective by protecting their industry through supply chain security and promoting technological development. Remember, there is nothing mentioned about integrating yourself with supply chain. They are focusing on supply chain security. That means they are more precarious towards those countries which will fulfill their demand. So they don't want to integrate themselves. They want that they should be the part of that supply chain only, which fulfill their domestic demands and fulfill their exports as well. So these actions often led to retaliation by other countries, creating a cycle. That's true. The traditional system of multilateral trade agreement is weakening. Countries are focusing on bilateralism or regional agreement, and that regional agreement is also between a few of the countries like I2U2, Quad. These are very small groups. So this shift reduces predictability, and that is what it increases the complexity. Now, guys, this is very, very, very important. In prelims exam as well as in mains exam, what is the difference between friend shoring and near shoring? Very important. Again, mind my words. This is a very important question for prelims as well as mains, and UPSC may ask this. What is the meaning of friend shoring and what is the meaning of near shoring? So, friend shoring means where countries prefer to trade with their strategic allies. That means politically aligned nation where defense and security partners are there and trade is no purely economic. I'll give you a simple example. Earlier, what used to be happen, countries are doing trade to reduce their overall cost. Countries are doing trade so that their supply will not, their import will not get affected. Countries are doing trade to enhance their overall income. Countries are doing trade to increase their trade surpluses. This is what earlier used to be. But now, under the friend shoring, countries prefer to do trade with strategic allies, to those nations which are politically aligned, defense and security partner. Even if the cost escalate, that doesn't matter. They want to do trade with only those countries which fulfill these 4 points. That is strategic allies, politically aligned nation, defense and security partners, and trade is no longer purely economic. Example: US prefer Mexico, Vietnam, India. EU prefers Eastern Europe. Japan prefer ASEAN countries. So earlier firms choose suppliers based on lowest prices, but today firms choose supplier based on price plus political risk plus policy stability. Another is near shoring. What is near shoring? Near shoring means firms always prefer that the supply chain should be shorter, delivery should be faster, and lower logistic risk. Earlier what used to be happen, countries prefer कि ठीक है यार time लग जाए कोई बात नहीं, but goods का cost कम होना चाहिए. Now they are not preferring that. They prefer that any kind of uncertainty happen, so the supply chain should be shorter, delivery of goods should be faster, and logistic risk should be lower. So shipping cost, geopolitical choke points right now. Recently, Strait of Hormuz. This is what a geopolitical choke point. Abhi Strait of Hormuz block हुआ, पूरे world में energy crisis हो गए. So that's the reason countries are focusing more on near shoring. So US firms shifting production to Mexico and Central America so that there should not be any kind of supply disruption happen. Now there might be a difference that can be asked between friend shoring and near shoring. Core idea under friend shoring is political trust, near shoring geographic proximity. Main drivers security and geopolitics, here logistic and speed. Cost is secondary here. Scale, global but selective. It is regional more. Impact on trade, fragmentation. It led to regionalization. Dominant today, yes, near shoring is also but limited. So guys, this is very, very important. Again, I am saying friend shoring and near shoring. Next, according to IMF projection, what is the impact of global trade growth right now? So global trade growth is slowing down due to uncertainty and fragmentation. Trade growth is expected around 3.6% in 2025, and it may be declining to 2.3% in 2026. Even emerging economies are more affected because of continuous uncertainty. So now if we talk about in context of India, in context of India also, just a second. Yeah, in context of India, when we talk about the overall segmentation, so overall trade performance, that is export plus import plus trade balance, total export is around 825.3 billion. Total import is 919.9 billion. So trade deficit is around 94.7 billion. This data you can use in mains exam. So imports are more because of capital goods, because of machineries, heavy machineries, electronic component and industrial input. That means although our export keep on increasing, but import are still higher. And that is the reason trade deficit is there. But this trade deficit narrowed down because of more export. Now, if we talk about what are the items that actually we export a lot, so petroleum products, that's very important. India actually depending a lot on global oil prices, but petroleum products like jellies, wax, all these things we export. So even if export volume remains stable, export value fall when prices decline. Gems and jewelry, links to global luxury demand, highly cyclical. Core export, that is non-petroleum and non-gem export. If we talk about engineering good, electronic, pharma, we are considered as a pharma capital also, machinery, automobile, chemical. The survey considered this segment as India's real export engine. So might be a UPSC prelims can be asked, question can be asked in prelims, what are the core export items of India? So engineering goods, electronic, pharma, machinery, automobile and chemicals are the core export. Now if we talk about core export, they constitute around 79% of India's total merchandise export. Remember guys, this core export may be asked in prelims, what all are included in core export. So this total core export is around 79% of India's total merchandise export. Even when there is weak global demand, India's export are showing more stability, less price volatility, high profit margin and better quality employment also. Because of export diversification, India also focuses a lot on global quality standards now. PLI, the backbone of manufacturing sector, also promote the manufacturing growth, and India also focusing a lot on logistics and infrastructure, because it is still a big challenge for India. The logistic cost is around 13 to 14% of GDP, whereas if we talk about the developed nation, their overall logistic cost is 7 to 8%. So India trying to improve their ranking in logistic performance index as well. Now, import. Major import include capital goods, machinery, electronic components, and industrial raw material. But under the PLI scheme, electronic, pharma, solar, automobile import rise initially, but now domestic supplier ecosystem is trying to catch up with the time. Although still the imports are high because of industrial expansion, not economic weakness. This is very important again. Usually क्या होता था, ये पहले भी बहुत बड़ी बड़ी कंट्रीज ने भी कैसा किया है, इंपोर्ट इनिशियली इंक्रीज होते हैं एक्सपोर्ट को बढ़ाने के लिए. सो व्हेन इनिशियली इंपोर्ट इंक्रीजेस टू एक्सपैंड द एक्सपोर्ट्स, दैट्स नॉट अ मेजर चैलेंज. मेजर चैलेंज इज इफ यू आर इंपोर्टिंग मोर बिकॉज ऑफ इकोनॉमिक वीकनेस, देन इट्स अ चैलेंज. सो इफ इंडियाज इंपोर्ट आर इंक्रीजिंग बिकॉज ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियल एक्सपेंशन, देन इट्स नॉट अ मेजर कंसर्न. If we talk about the agricultural export, this is very important. India's agriculture export have shown steady growth over the year. Between 20 and 25, agriculture export increased from 34.5 billion to US dollar 51.1 billion, registered a CAGR growth of 8.2%. India is the second largest agri producer. India has a potential to achieve $100 billion in agriculture export in the coming years. This is you can use in prelims as well as this can be asked in prelims, and if not in prelims, you can use this line in mains. Currently we are around at 51.1 billion US dollar, but we have a potential to reach it to $100 billion, $100 billion in coming years. But now this is the major problem. Only 2% share in global agri export. If we are talking about, we're the second largest agri producer, but still the share of our agriculture in global export is very weak. The reason is post-harvest losses, poor cold chains, poor storage facilities. Then apart from that, still using the monoculture more, and we are not diversifying our agriculture. These are the major reasons. So why agriculture underperform? Because frequent export ban, price control, and even the sudden policy change. So that led to major problems. The overall solution is to stabilize the domestic prices and also to focus on consistency and creating long-term trust. Then PLI scheme extremely important. India's export challenge is not demand alone, tariff alone, exchange rate alone. The real constraint जो भारत के export का सबसे बड़ा problem है, वो है manufacturing scale plus competitiveness का issue. The major problem in context of Indian export is manufacturing the scale plus competitiveness. So PLI is trying to become a bridge between domestic manufacturing and global trade integration to achieve the scale, to improve cost competitiveness, to anchor India into global value chain, and to enable export-led manufacturing. And that's why PLI scheme is right now considered as the very important scheme for the manufacturing growth, because to become a developed nation by 2047, we need that the manufacturing share in overall GDP should be around 25 to 30%. So PLI scheme incentive is linked to incremental production. This is very important because PLI scheme focuses a lot, not only that because you are manufacturing the goods or you are exporting the goods, we will give you the benefits. No, it focuses on incremental production. That means you need to increase the production, and that production should be with incremental level, actual sales, and measurable output. So incentives is directly linked to incremental production. That means how much you actually being able to do the sales. Then it also talk about how much is the overall measurable output. This is the same although repeated. So PLI target focuses on 14 sector like high global demand, scale economies, tradability, and potential for learning spillover. That means it focuses more on scalability and tradability a lot. Now, if we talk about high performing sector, that some sectors have shown very high export growth, that is above 20%. This is again a prelims question. IT hardware, electronics, solar photovoltaic, and specialty steel. Remember guys, this is very, very important. Which are the high export growth sector in context of PLI scheme after the implementation of PLI scheme? IT, hardware, electronics, solar PV, and specialty steel. These sector represent emerging strength in India. However, import भी बढ़े हैं किसके? Solar PV imports grew sharply. ACC battery import also increased. So if we want to integrate our export or products with global value chain, then we also need to enhance the exports of other sector as well. Then export market diversification. This is a much needed in the current times. Whole world is trying to focus on building the relationship with those countries which are having the niche in certain products. Countries worldwide also focuses on China plus one strategy. So India is also focusing on to diversify their trade basket. So over dependence on US or on China may lead to that very what detrimental effect in the long term. So India diversified towards UAE, Africa, ASEAN, and Latin America. India also had done so much of trade agreements like India EU FTA, where this deal removed 99% tariff on Indian export. India Oman SEPA, and agreements with UK and New Zealand also. Trade Connect e-platform. This is prelims question, guys. Again, might be asked in prelims. Trade Connect e-platform, a new deep digital infrastructure designed to help small exporters to navigate into international rules effortlessly. अब तक क्या होता था, जो हमारे स्मॉल एक्सपोर्टर होते थे ना, उनको ये कई बार ये बहुत बड़े चैलेंजेस फेस करने पड़ते थे. इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड्स, इंटरनेशनल रूल्स उनको समझ में नहीं आते थे. इंटरनेशनल क्वालिटी स्टैंडर्ड्स को वो फुलफिल नहीं कर पाते थे. सो ट्रेड कनेक्ट ई प्लेटफॉर्म विल हेल्प दीज स्मॉल बेसिकली एक्सपोर्टर्स टू अंडरस्टैंड और टू नेविगेट दिस कॉम्प्लेक्स इंटरनेशनल रूल्स effortlessly. So this is what I had said. Free trade agreement, SECA, SEPA. This you can refer. Okay. Now, economic complexity index. Economic complexity index, India ranked 44 in that. Again, a kind of prelims question. This index measured how much you are diversifying your export, how much sophistication of product. India's ranking has improved but remain moderate. Indian exports में अभी भी जो major चीजें हैं वो है कि India still concentrated a lot on low and mid complex product. See guys, if India want to create or to what I can say replace China or become an alternative to China, we need to create a niche for specific products. We still focuses a lot on the mid and low products. Then petrol, diamond, rice, medicine, this limit long-term growth potential. To sustain high growth, we need to focus on high technology export, advanced manufacturing, as well as complex export. Now, pharma. This is, we are considered as a pharma capital of the world, but right now there is a major problem that I'll discuss. So Indian firms increase R&D spending, focus on complex generics, biosimilar, and drug delivery system. Indian firms now invest in USA FDA compliance, EU regulatory standard, and quality assurance system. What happened a year or two or 3 years before? When Indian pharma products are going into the US economy or EU economy, they put a ban on Indian pharma, and also put that issue where they are saying that Indian pharma industry is not focusing a lot on R&D. So whatever the products they are giving, like through generic versions, they are not that much researched products. As a result of that, India's trade actually fall in pharma. So India now feel that this thing that if we want to sustain our pharma products into the long run, we need to focus on R&D. As a result, they also focusing a lot on US FDA compliances, like whatever the FDA of US is saying will comply with that, EU regulatory norms as well. So India now has highest number of US FDA approved plant outside the US, and that's a big achievement, guys. Now, it's if we talk about the service industry, the backbone of our export, total service export is around 387 to 390 billion. Growth is double digit. India के अगर overall rank देखें, we are the 7th largest service exporter with a trade surplus of 189 billion. This surplus is finance a large part of mercantile trade deficit, support current account stability. So service export plus remittances, if we add, it provides the foreign exchange, offset oil import bills. It is basically whatever the export we are doing through service and whatever import we are doing for oil, it offset the cost for that. It also support rupee stability. India being world's largest remittance recipient amplify this question. So service export is one of the export which is providing a lot of cushion to our economy, and that's why it's very, very important. Okay, then if we talk about moving ahead, why service exports are resilient to global shocks, why the Indian service sector is still very much resilient, standing like a hard rock. What is the reason? First is less tariff exposure. Tariff is actually apply more on goods, so service industry is actually get a lot of save from this tariffs. So most service are delivered digitally, cross border electronically. Then India have a skill based advantage in human capital, then knowledge intensive and expertise in the domain. Demand is sticky because usually the outside firms also don't want to change their service partners because they have built a trust for long 5-10 years. They understand that whatever the demands of ours is fulfilled by them. If we want to create a new trade partner, we let them also understand whatever the demands. So they follow that conventional things कि ठीक है जो चलता हुआ रहा है उसी को चलते रहने देते हैं. Talking about the investment and logistic, India has climbed 38 in the World Bank's logistic performance index, and right now this is the need of an hour as well, because India knew this thing that the logistic performance index is very important for trade facilitation as well. Currently, our overall logistic cost is 13 to 14% of GDP, and if we compare ourselves with developed economies, it is 7 to 8%. So by creating multi-modal logistic park and by having proper hinterland connectivity, India focusing a lot on logistic performance. Talking about the FDIs, foreign direct investment rose sharply. That means India is now a global leader in greenfield digital investment, and we all knew this thing that the FDI investment are for long term. They are more active, they are more bring R&D technology, and they are always considering a more better form rather than FPI or FIs. The reason is they can withdraw their money anytime whenever they feel that they are getting more returns in the other countries or in other markets. Foreign exchange reserve reached at $701.4 billion by January 26. This is enough to cover 11 months of import. Extremely important line. Even our finance minister also said this thing many times that our foreign exchange reserve is very strong. They are right now at $701.4 billion, enough to cover 11 months of import and also nearly 94% of our external debt. India remained the world's top recipient with $135.4 billion flowing in during financial year 2025 in context of remittances. So we are on the top in context of receiving remittances. We are number one ranked when we are talking about the remittances. Current account deficit is around 0.8% of GDP, and external debt to GDP ratio is around 18.4% to 19.2%. This is what about the investment and logistics part. Then global value chain, India also focusing a lot to integrate into global value chain, but don't want to expose their economy. So India, the problem why India is not able to what I can say become an alternative to China is export competitiveness is weak, technology transfer is weak, and scale of manufacturing is low. Hence, to replace China, we need to focusing on improving logistic, reduce trade cost, enhance infrastructure, and to have a policy stability with a specific niche creation is mandatory. So guys, these are the questions. You should pause the video, answer these questions in comment, and let me know how many of you had made the correct answers out of these questions. With reference to trade policy uncertainty, consider the following statement. Trade policy uncertainty arises due to factors like tariff hike, export ban, and sanction. True. Trade policy uncertainty affect firm more adversely than high tariff. True. Trade policy uncertainty encourage firms to expand export. No, they try to limit their export. They just focusing on wait and watch approach. So 1 and 2 only is the right one. With reference to India's service export, consider the following statement. Service export generated trade surplus that help offset trade deficit. True. Service exports are less affected by tariff compared to goods trade. Correct. India is among top 10 global service exporter. This is also true. So 1, 2 and 3 is the right answer. Then consider the following statement. Friend shoring is increasingly preferred over traditional global sourcing in a present global trade environment. That's true. Countries are prioritizing geopolitical alignment and national security over cost efficiency in trade decisions. That's also true. And both A and R true. R is the correct explanation of A as well. Then the last question, consider the following statement regarding BOP. A current account deficit, if not adequately financed by capital inflow, can lead to deterioration in overall BOP. Bilkul. Agar current account deficit, if not properly financed, then it led to problem in overall BOP. True. Capital account inflow such as FDI and portfolio investment can help in financing current account deficit. True. Second is explaining the one also. All form of capital account inflow directly improve the current account balance. No, not necessary. Sometimes FPI put their money and again wipe out their money if they feel that they are getting more returns in US Treasury. So no, this is not necessary. So only one of the statement 2 and 3 is correct, and statement 1 and statement 1 is also correct. Only one of the statement 2 and 3 is correct and statement 1 is correct. That's the C is the right answer. So guys, this is regarding to chapter number 4 of economic survey. I hope it has been clear to you all what is there in this chapter number 4. And I also hope that you get it what is mentioning important thing in an external sector. Guys, these chapter number 1 to chapter number 4 is extremely important. Do proper revision from these particular videos and also try to solve as much as possible question as much as possible. That's it from my side. Thank you so much, and mention in the comment if you really like this video, and do share, subscribe. God bless you.